My name is Mike Nelson, and I work as a tech evangelist for Pure Storage. I have the greatest honor in the world of speaking with Steven Bucher today, who is a product manager.
The same thing.
He's a PM.
I'm a
We'll just
PM.
say that. Okay.
Whatever that means.
At Microsoft. Just a little background is that Steven and I didn't even know we were doing the same thing. It actually came about is that I submitted, and then he was going to submit something, and then he sent me an email and he said, "Hey, you're doing this session on this, and I'm doing this session on that. Maybe we can get together and do this session together." And I thought it was a great idea. So him and I have been collaborating for since January.
Yeah, for a while. We've both been pretty interested in kind of AI applications and AI agents as well. So we've chatted a lot about that over the years now, almost. So
Yeah. So we're going to be talking about AI agents. Okay. I want to set a little groundwork here. Is that it's not going to be completely focused on AI shells. So the title is a little bit off. We're actually going to be focused on AI agents in general. Because what we found here since we've actually started talking to people at this conference and Steven's last presentation is that, we need to find out how much everybody is actually using AI today. All right, so Steven's going to ask a couple questions when he kicks this off. But as you know, if you have any questions, we would ask that you hold them, okay, till towards the end, because we've got a lot of stuff to show you. A lot of demos and a lot of information we're going to be showing you. So take it away.
Cool. So yeah, who? When I say AI agents, do people know what that means? Does anyone feel comfortable with what AI agents means? You can throw. Okay. I think a shaky hand is the correct answer actually, because it's really, really hard to have a perfect definition. There's so many different agents. Exactly. There's so many different ways that's being thrown around today. And, the way we talk about agents 6 months ago from the way we talk about agents today has changed. I mean, there's so much movement in the AI field. It's really, really hard to understand where everything is going. And so we're hoping this session can kind of bring a little bit of clarity, or at least help you with some of your thinking when you're kind of faced with the task of, how do I implement AI? How do I use AI for myself, my team, my company, etc.? So where do we go from there? Of course, thank you to the sponsors of this conference. Without this, we would not have these amazing conversations, amazing sessions. And so big thank you to them. Mike, what is an AI agent? Because I don't really know, and I'm up here supposed to talk about them.
Yeah, so he asked the question if anybody really kind of get what an AI agent is. So I want to set a definition. And I said that to Steven when we were first talking about this presentation, and he's like, can you really do that? No, actually, we really can't, because each vendor or each provider or each person that creates a model pretty much makes up their own definition, because there is no world standard around what an AI agent is. All right. So if you take a look here at the first bullet point, agents can, emphasize can, have memory, domain knowledge, and the ability to use tools. This is something that is pretty much across all agents, but you'll notice when you start looking at some of the more open source, more of the newer to the market type of agents, they don't have a lot of these capabilities. All right, so next we got the agents dynamically adapt their approach based on the context and tools results. That should be like a baseline. That's pretty much standard across all agents. So that should be there. And agents can interact with the environment, collect data, make decisions based on context, both predictable and unpredictable. I know you covered this a little bit in his last session, where you take a look at, exactly what an agent can work with. Now, we're talking about an environment. An environment can mean anything from what's on your local machine, what's inside of your infrastructure, what's outside of your infrastructure, what's out in the world. It's not just limited to a small little box. And this is highlighted in yellow for a specific reason, okay? Agents are intelligent programs that solve problems interactively, okay? And it really should say and or autonomously, all right? So some agents are autonomous, which means that they actually will try and solve problems themselves without a human interaction, all right? but some are just interactive, where they rely on that human interaction to actually give you a response or solve a problem or do something like that. All right, so there is a basic difference between some agents and how they act. We're going to show some of those agents in our demonstrations. So when you take a look at it, it's agent or AI assistant. So before you hit the next slide there, what is an AI assistant? Somebody scream it out. What is that? Okay, so you're pretty close. An AI assistant is something that actually, go ahead and you can put that out. Okay, so an AI agent, first of all, we'll take an agent, okay, they're proactive, all right? And what they do is they work interactively or autonomously, just like we said before, to produce a result, okay? Where an AI assistant is reactive, okay? It only knows how to react to things. It only knows how to understand things that have already happened or something that is, something that they can react to, all right? So an agent, by definition, is more intelligent than an actual assistant. So what is Siri?
That is the correct answer.
Siri is most definitely reactive, okay? It is an assistant, all right? Google, when you talk to Google in your home, Google Voice, what is that? That is reactive, exactly. So you're talking about things that are reactive. Google will sit there and monitor your web, what you do on the web. It'll monitor what you do in your home if you have it set up for that. It'll monitor everything that you do, and it'll collect that information, but it's reacting off of that things that you have done, all right? Where an AI agent doesn't necessarily do that. An AI agent is proactive. It goes out and said, well, maybe they wanted to do this, or maybe they did that, and they want to do this, okay? So that's a big difference in the way you think about, AI agents or AI assistants.
Yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit about the evolution of AI agents, because it's hasn't just completely started from nothing in 2022 when ChatGPT came out, right? These were kind of a thing before. They just never really caught the wind of the whole market and stuff. It really started back in 2014 with, natural language processing SDKs and stuff, and kind of grew into more conversational AI bots, intent-driven bots for development. Eventually, of course, the big bang in AI, that I don't know if you want to call it that or anything, but the big bubble, yeah. The ChatGPT release in 2022, where the term LLM now became a kind of a household term, with generative AI being more accessible and available to everyone. And now kind of, LLMs created a baseline for kind of this AI function, these AI perceptions and stuff. And we're actually starting to now build in 2024 and 2025 AI agents that utilize these LLMs. One thing we should clarify is that AI agents are not exclusive to LLMs. Correct. They can be considered as such, but LLMs are just a piece of the puzzle. And so you want to talk about the kind of the components of AI agents?
So there's 5 main core components. Now, I'm saying this very loosely because, again, this is someone else's definition. Nobody is really, anybody in here, and probably not given that you were all like this if you knew what an AI agent was, anybody here consider themselves an AI expert? Sydney, probably, but no. What I'm trying to get across here is that I've met some people who say that they are experts in AI. They're really not, because I haven't met anybody that really knows everything about AI. AI goes in 1,000 different directions, all right? It literally has tentacles that go everywhere. And you're talking about LLMs, you're talking about agents, you're talking about this, you're talking about that. It goes all over the board, okay? So take this as kind of a precursor to hopefully a standard someday. When you look at the components of AI agents, you're looking at perception. All right, so an AI agent has to have some sort of perception. It has to have a learning module. It has to understand how to consume and learn.
And the perception is not just image. It's text, it's image, it's video, it's perception of something.
Right. And you're looking at a learning module where it actually is consuming information, reasoning, okay? Believe it or not, this is what scares the crap out of everybody is that, oh my God, AI agent can think for itself. Yeah, it actually can. And that's the thing about it is it's coming up with some kind of reasoning around the data that it's consuming. An action module where it can actually execute something. Okay, and then a communication where it can communicate back to the user or communicate to anything, anybody, any entity that it needs to communicate with. All right, so go ahead.
So we want to talk a little bit about the building blocks of an agent, and I like to think of them as agent clients. What I presented about last session and what I'll also be talking about again later is AI Shell. AI Shell is an agent client. It utilizes AI agents and creates that table that you can sit at and talk to these different experts, these different AI agents and stuff. There's all sorts of different AI clients. VS Code is technically an AI client with GitHub Copilot. Of course, the web interface is an AI client as well. Or is an agent client, and we wanted to, for us, how we think about it is, you can have all these multiple agents within these clients, or even just have one. But within those agents, there's a couple of these building blocks. The AI perceptions is a very key part of it. Everything that we kind of just talked about in the previous slide is definitely a core component of what AI agents are. What also is an important component of AI agents is the data and actions that it can take. So this is where it gets a lot more exciting, where it gets a lot more powerful than just an LLM, right? LLM is what provides these AI perceptions, but it doesn't know what the weather is today. It doesn't know what date it is today, unless it has some kind of action to get that date or get the weather in the city or something like that. It was trained on data from 2021 or now probably later now, but that data is not relevant today. It needs to be more actionable, especially if it's working on something that you're working on. It's not going to know what's going on. And so a big piece of it is the data and actions of it. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that block to kind of show what that is with it. Has anyone heard the term model context protocol before? Has anyone heard that before? It's kind of the new hot thing today.
Yeah, MCP.
MCP as it's otherwise. This is a protocol that Anthropic has actually built out to give your LLMs these different ways to talk to different data sources here. You can see in this diagram here, your host is a bunch of MCP clients or agent clients in another sense too, that can talk to different servers that have access to local data source A, B, or maybe an external API, in remote service C or something like that. And we're not going to be going too deeply into it, but if you're ever curious, definitely, look more into it. But I will show off one of the AI agents I have. So I have Claude. This is same thing as OpenAI, just a slightly different flavor. You'll notice here, I have an MCP tool that's registered for me. I sometimes get really annoyed with LLMs hallucinating examples for commands and stuff like that.
Can you explain hallucination a little bit?
Yeah, so it's making up stuff that just isn't there. Like we see a lot with these AI assistants for PowerShell. They'll just throw in a parameter that just does not exist. Just does not exist. I can see a lot of head nods. I'm clearly not the only one you came across this.
Even commandlets.
Even commandlets. It will just make up random commandlets that just meet the same verb-noun format and says, yeah, I'm sure that exists somewhere. Yeah. But that's not good enough, right? And that's not helpful. You're going to run into an error. You're not going to know what to do. You're kind of back to square one. So I created an MCP server to actually run. It's very simple. All it does is run get help against a commandlet that I'm trying to find information about, and it gets the examples from that get help example. I know those are examples that will work because they are in the man pages. They have been vetted. They have been used. They get updated. Probably. Yeah, probably. Hopefully. Exactly. Hopefully they are, but they are, at least not hallucinate. They're not pulled out of thin air, I guess, is what we're trying to do. And so what this does is, so I can say something like, show me examples of how to use new-item. And so it may hallucinate all these sorts of things, but it sees, hey, I noticed that I have a tool available for me to say, let me get examples from my PowerShell help. It's going to ask for my permission to do this. I'm going to allow it. And it's going to run in the background, get help dash new item. And it gives back a bunch of jargon and stuff. But you can see here now all of these examples are taken straight from the man page, straight from the get help page of this commandlet. So I can feel much more confident. I mean, heck, I'll even show you, right? If I go, if I zoom in here, new dash item, examples. You can see it's got a bunch of these examples of like test folder, test file, and it and stuff. If I go back to Claude, you'll see the same examples just pulled directly from this. And this will just format it nicely so for me to see. This is one of the benefits of this particular client. And so this is a very basic example of how, like getting data is necessary for making these AI agents extremely powerful. And things like that. There's all sorts of examples online of it grabbing data from some database that you give it access to. You can do some file things. You do want to be careful with it. It's a very new and emerging thing. So definitely make sure you do your due diligence with MCP servers and things like that. I'm not going to be going into that too deeply, but I want to use this as just an example of why it's important to have data and action be a component of the agent that you are either building or using, because you need it to not hallucinate. You need it to actually be helpful.
You're right. And exactly. And this is a perfect example. What he just showed you is how you can make the actual model that you're using smarter. Okay. Because like he was saying, some of these models were built. If you go back to actually, the early 3.0 models and even the early 4 GPT models, those were made and they stopped in like 2021. 2022 is when they stopped actually, had the cutoff where they weren't collecting data anymore. You can add your own data to it to actually make it more relevant, more intelligent up until today, until modern day. Okay, and this is a perfect example of that because it may not, that commandlet new item may not even have existed when the model actually, went out and looked at PowerShell, but you can make it know what it is.
Yeah. An MCP is just one of the ways that an agent can get data. There's all sorts of new ways to do it. So this is just one example. Yep. I know we kind of are going through there's so many different ways to do it. We can't define everything, but unfortunately that's the reality of things. And so this is just one example of things. So one thing I want to talk about is kind of the spectrum of agents to kind of also help scope the understanding of what agents are and help you understand what they can do. You can have, from simple to very complex agents. Simple ones can be just given a simple instruction. This can be as simple as, taking an LLM and doing some prompt engineering for it. Have anyone heard the term prompt engineering before? Kind of vaguely familiar with it? Essentially, it's making the prompt to your LLM, engineering that question that you ask it in a way that you get the most effective response for it.
As a side note, they actually offer it as a college course. I'm not kidding you. Go out and look it up, and they actually have college courses on prompt engineering now.
But yeah, it's at first that was kind of like the big thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I got to become a prompt engineer to really utilize these LLMs, and that is important as well. But it still suffers from hallucinations and things like that. Prompt engineering and prompt grounding is another term that's very similar to this, where essentially you ground your prompt with a meta prompt that you always send with every question that you ask it. So what that means is if I want a LLM to only give me PowerShell commands when I ask it questions about coding, my grounded prompt is say, do not give me Python. I do not want Python. I want PowerShell. And that will ground the LLM to be only giving me responses in PowerShell, for example. That, technically speaking, that's a very simple AI agent. Or you can get really, really complex agents where things are autonomous. It can make multiple LLM calls and solve a problem or take action, where it can actually execute commands or do things and be much more, verbose its output and stuff. Like I said, there isn't a strict requirement of kind of what defines an agent. It's a bit vague, but we are trying to think of it this way. Of course, I had to have AI kind of help generate me an image here, just from going simple, complex. But I actually think this is kind of a cool visualization of it, where one only has kind of one antenna, the other one's a little bigger, the other one has a lot of antennas to talk to and do a lot of different things. So that's one way to think of it, right?
Yeah.
So I want to showcase one of these simple agents. I've heard a lot too that a lot of folks are using kind of M365 Copilot. Anyone use that kind of in their organization or manage that within their organization? Okay, a good amount of folks.
It's an easy button.
It's a very easy button. So has anyone built agents before with this tool at all?
No.
No?
Right.
Okay. Well, why don't
you do that for us, Steve?
Why don't I do that for us?
Yeah.
So here in my M365 Copilot here, I can just simply walk through and create myself an agent. I don't know if I can zoom in on this a little bit. Maybe not. But essentially, all I have to do is talk to it to help create myself an agent. It kind of gives me examples. Hey, here's a career coach, for career advice, ideas coach, learning coach. I could really use some help with forming presentations for PowerShell Conference 2025. Maybe this is too telling of me that I'm doing this live right now. I should have done this maybe before, but 2026. There you go. I can prepare for next year. So but
it's going to hallucinate.
Yeah. So it's kind of walking me through. Oh, so you want some kind of instructions, descriptions. How about the name PowerShell Presentation Assistant? Yeah. That sounds good. And so it will just I just can talk to this Copilot and get it, to get to a point. So it walks me through, hey, let's refine what the agent should do. It should help me create outlines for my presentation. And it will kind of walk me through this. And so this is helping prompt ground Copilot a bit. Behind the scenes, it's kind of just walking through, is there any publicly accessible websites or data sources that you would like to use? I'm going to just say no for now. I'll let you show that off in a moment here. But, and boom, as simple as that, my agent is actually set up. And so here on the right, you kind of see it got populated, and I can ask it, help me create an outline for a talk about AI and PowerShell. And it will be processing this and kind of do this out. But I just created an agent. A very, very simple one, mind you, but I just created an agent. And so it walks me through introduction, AI overview, PowerShell overview, integration of AI and PowerShell, use cases, conclusion. Pretty simple, but that's maybe what I needed. What I like to think of this for is kind of when your team may have a gap in a role or in a kind of an area that you might need a little help in. For me, maybe a team needs a project manager or a marketing person. I'm really bad at marketing personally, so I tend to use kind of an AI agent that's grounded in some. Hey, you're a marketing expert. Help me figure out a better name for this product, or help me figure out write up this blog post that makes it compelling and interesting to readers and that sort of thing. And so you can kind of think of it that way, as getting these simple agents to help you fill out little gaps in the work that you're doing today. So that's, like I said, very simple and very easy to create an agent using M365 Copilot. You'll need a license for it. I don't know the exact pricing or anything, but it's pretty simple. And you'll see here kind of I'll have some of the agents available here that are defaulted. I made a PowerShell Hero one to help me with PowerShell commands and stuff. That one is kind of the same exact one that I described earlier, where I said, only give me PowerShell commands. That's That's pretty much all it is something to help me with that. That one definitely can hallucinate, so it's not perfect. So that's why you got to be cognizant and understanding where your data and where your information is coming from these AI agents. So yeah, I guess we'll jump back in. Anything to add, Mike, on this, or we can...
Oh, now you went too far.
I went too far. Why does it want to see my camera? Oh, because I clicked on it.
So go ahead.
So once I build the agent, can it, like, what's the scope of it? That's what the question was. It stays within your M365 tenant and stuff. I believe there is a way you can publish it and share it with colleagues and things like that. I'm not entirely sure, but it kind of stays within your subscription and your, I guess,
Right.
M365 tenant.
My question is, can I only do the PowerPoint or can do beyond PowerPoint?
Oh, it can do whatever you kind of ground it towards. So it may not be able to create that PowerPoint. It just gave me a text outline, right? This one is much more text-based, but I think they're working on kind of being able to use these agents within PowerPoint to say, hey, here's my outline, create me a presentation with it. But this is just an arbitrary example of one kind of thing that you can create an agent for. Yeah. Cool. Do you want to?
Yeah, so I'm going to preface this as saying that, I'm going to do ChatGPT. Apologies to Microsoft here. But from simple to mildly complex, ChatGPT has been around, well, they've been around longer than a lot of, OpenAI has been around a lot longer. You can grab one that's existing or you can make your own. And you can add local data. You can ground it, you can set preferences, you can do all kinds of fun stuff. So I'm going to jump over and show that. And hopefully this syncs up.
There we go.
Cool. All right. So this is just ChatGPT right here. Standard interface. I have a paid subscription, so it looks a little bit different from the free one. But when you're in ChatGPT, one of the things when we talked about grounding is you can actually go in here, and if you click on your name here, you can say customize ChatGPT. This is where you're actually setting how you want it to respond to you, how you want to be addressed as a person. I want to be addressed as Mike. My responses should be given at any length required to convey the appropriate complete response. All these different parameters that I'm getting at. So everything that I ever ask ChatGPT is going to first look at this and is going to understand this. All right. And I can put anything in here that I want, really. You'll notice down here, I tell it about me. It asks, anything you should know about. Well, this is what I do. This is what I, do for work. This is what my hobbies include. Okay. Because I may ask it about something that I do outside of work. Oh, God forbid you would do that. But, you could ask it about hobbies. And, I even used it. We even used it one time, my family, to plan an entire trip that we were taking and saying, where are the best places to go when we go on this trip? What we should do from a sightseeing perspective and things like that. And it gave me all kinds of cool stuff to do. All right. So it uses this information. Like Steven was saying, from grounding and things like that. So when you go in here, obviously it's been around for a while, like I said, but if you go in and explore GPTs, you can see GPTs that other people have created. All right. These are things that already are pre-created that people have done around different topics. You can see people have done it around science. People have done it around video, even vendors. I mean, how many people use Canva? Have everybody used Canva before? I mean, it's pretty widely known, right? So they created their own GPT and put it out here so people could use it.
And Mike, so what are GPTs? We just threw out this completely new term to folks just to confuse them, right? GPTs are agents.
Yeah.
It's just another word for it, essentially. But that is the GPT, the branded name that ChatGPT likes to call their kind of more grounded agents and stuff like that. Just to bridge the gap in case anyone was super confused. Why the heck are we talking about GPTs when we've just been talking about agents? They're
Yeah.
Essentially the same thing. They are the same thing.
They are, and this goes back to the non-standard that we were talking about before, right? Some companies, some providers will call it GPT. Some will call it Copilot you to death. Not saying who that is, but other companies will also pick up the term Copilot, i.e., the company that we work for. We developed our own Copilot. Well, everybody wants to call themselves Copilot now. So you guys started a trend. You're the trendsetters, I guess. Yeah, so this is just, like you said, another word for an AI agent. So if you go in here and you find something, I mean, if you want to search, I do 3D printing is a big thing with me, right? So I do a search here. You can use an existing 3D printer and you can see how many people have used this. So you got 10,000 people that are using this particular GPT. I would not probably use the GPT that has like 4 users or 10 plus users. I would use the one that has 10,000 because I think that has a much better reputation. If you want to be a beta tester and try out somebody who's got like 3, 4, 5 users, go for it. But I don't think you'll get the same quality results. So what I did was I actually created my own GPTs, right? So I created one called a prompt generator, and I also created one called a creative 3D printing thinker. And, I did this, and obviously I don't have any chats with it, but you'll notice what I did here is I gave it the instructions, and I'm just telling it exactly what I want it to do, all right? And then I actually give conversation starters, okay? So I can tell it this, when I start a conversation, it'll pop up in this screen right here, give me a 3D printing project idea, all right? I can just ask it that question, and it's gonna know that it wants to go follow this instruction and then go out and find all the information for it.
Looks kind of similar to the M365 agent creation, huh?
It does. It does look really similar, except that you have some other capabilities down here. To your point, sir, you'll notice capabilities, web search, Canvas, DALL-E image generation, and code interpreter and data analysis. I didn't see that in the M365 one, did you? No. So the thing about it is that you have the ability to search all these other sources for information and data. There's no way that it would come back with all text if I didn't tell it to use DALL-E to be able to create an image for me that's saying, hey, I want to create a really cool 3D image of this thing. It has to go out to something that can create an image. Something, because it can't. It doesn't know how. It doesn't know anything about how to create an image. But models like DALL-E have been trained specifically to create images. All right. So
this is starting where it gets a little bit more complex, right?
Right.
ChatGPT can answer text questions and stuff. DALL-E can do images, but you can kind of combine the two into seemingly like one experience, right? So we're trying to build on top of how we can get, kind of complicated experiences here.
yeah.
The
only other thing I wanted to show here was the ability. Oh yeah, there's all my headshots. Great. Is the ability to upload files. So the cool thing is, what I wanted to show here is I have the ability to actually add URLs as well. So Mr. Nocentino just actually, who's in the back of the room, I get the proud pleasure of working with him, actually uploaded his on-ramp information into the on-ramp repository, right, for this conference. I can actually create a GPT that's just about this conference, that just goes out and looks for data in this conference. All right, that's how refined you can get to it. And I think that's really, really powerful when you think about it. Because if I was James Petty and I was running this thing, I'd be like, hey, we got a GPT, that you can use just to whatever you want to query about what happened at DevOps PowerShell Summit 2025. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, and it's starting. This is kind of a little trend that, or like I say, a little trend, but it's starting to trend more in this kind of like, create me these ChatGPTs for this particular, for this summit or for this thing. I learned recently that there is a schools. I know it's a big question around schools and AI. It's very, honestly, it's quite it's a sensitive subject, but there is a way that teachers are starting to use these ChatGPT grounding methods to help students find the information that they need when they go back and study. Because you may not remember when they particularly talked about, the molecular structure of carbon, but if you ground the AIs with the classroom information, it can know, hey, we talked about that the second week of class at this point here. Here's, you can read more about it here, right? It's trying to that kind of data retrieval, augmentation, summarization that's pretty good in this case here. But yeah, you want to keep talking about?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
So in this PowerShell GPT, if you ask a particular question on PowerShell, you get a response back.
Yes.
If I ask the same question on the main ChatGPT, will I get a different response?
Most likely, yes. Well, because it depends on what model. You'll notice up here, when you actually create a GPT, you can tell it what model to use. So they may be using a different model that was start or stopped at a different time that may have different data, right? So it may contain different data, the model itself that it's pulling information from, number one. Number two, it may be just a situation where they're using different models where one is like, I have no idea what you're talking about and I can't give you any response. But if you were to switch the model, it would be like, okay, I'm going to go over and use Claude or something like that, a different model. It knows everything about it. All right.
And so that's where it starts to get, confusing with what the data the models were trained off of versus what the data the model can access.
Right.
Because if GPT, I think GPT-3 was trained up until 2021, but I made my PowerShell module in 2023. Like that's not going to be there. Or something like that, or like the new module was released by Microsoft about that. It's not going to be there, but GPT-4 may have it.
5.4 will have it.
5.4 will have it, or something like that. But it's also important to be like, hey, will this thing actually go out and get the latest data from the Microsoft Docs about what modules are there? So it's a bit of a layered thing. I think something we want to take away. One of the takeaways we want to give you from this talk is a bit more literacy and understanding about where the data is coming from, because it sucks when you hit that hallucinated command or hallucinated information. Nobody wants that. We
As an end user, how do you know when was this model last trained on? Is it an option somewhere you can see that?
I believe they'll have it somewhere in the documentation. I don't think it's displayed explicitly there.
What was the question?
The question was what information do you know what the model was trained off of? Like, do you know up till what point was the model trained off of data? You can ask the model. I guess you could ask the model, but
Yes.
are you gonna? Yeah, I don't know if I would trust that, but that's. But these are things to keep in mind when you're evaluating, AI systems to use for your organization or for yourself as well. I think there's a lot of misunderstandings around these models as far as it being an end-all perfect thing to understand everything. That's just absolutely not true and shouldn't be taken as such.
Right.
So
one of the things I want to show real quick, and this is out of sequence, so I apologize for this, is a great example of what you're talking about there. Is I'm actually using this little script here to go out and pull weather data from multiple models and then see the response that comes from all those different multiple models. And when I run this, you'll see that each response is not the same. They may give the same numerical information, okay, but some it's different the way that it's presented, the way it's responded to. All right. So if I actually run this, hopefully this is going to work because I wasn't planning on doing this. Yep. Here we go. If I can get this, I'm sorry if this is small, I'll make it bigger. So Azure AI is coming back and saying, okay, this is what Azure AI came back with. Okay. Everybody, I heard the argument yesterday was everybody wanted dark mode. So I apologize for that.
themes.
Oh, we need the lights off. Turn the lights off. Pick a color.
I scroll down a bit.
Light high contrast. Oh, geez.
Is that, hang on,
My eyes are burning.
try. Oh, no, maybe it's- I thought there was a
I was
light.
gonna say, put it back where it was, and then try just hitting Control Shift B and typing light. Because there's literally an option in
That's what I thought. So
VS
is
Code for light mode.
default dark. Light mode.
It's called there.
There we.
That's the same thing.
Your terminal colors are stuck what they were. You gotta rerun it.
Okay.
Because it put ANSI escape sequences in the
All right, we'll rerun it and let's see if that will fix it. Oh, it ran in because you don't.
Never mind. Go back. Go back.
Oh, because
Here.
I think you have to.
Why don't we do this? Okay. Why don't I just run it in terminal?
A little bit better.
Yeah. Well, you can see that, right? Okay. All right. Good. I just have to remember what folder I put it in. I think it's in AI demo. And what do I got there? Yeah, multiple. I can't see.
Screwed
Yeah,
this
make
all
it-
up, Joel.
Yeah, making everything hard for us, aren't you?
No,
right.
no. Well,
Okay, so here you go. This is OpenAI. OpenAI is saying in Seattle, the average weather, let me get back up here. The average weather is April typically ranges, blah, 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 right? They're using the GPT-4o mini model, all right, that I specified. But when you go to Anthropic, Claude is actually giving you like average daily and all this other information, all right? So you can distinctly see that the models interpret your question differently. And they want to give you one wants to give you a complete response, one wants to just give you the response off the data it knows. And then you go down to here where Gemini is, pretty much saying the same thing as Claude, but they're doing it in Markdown, which is cool. So yeah, that kind of shows you, comparing different models and how they respond to a simple ask of what the weather is.
What module are you using to call that?
I'm sorry?
What module are you using to interact with that with ChatGPT?
Oh, here, let me show you. Oh man, I'm bringing this back to dark mode.
So you gotta toggle it back the way you toggled it to this. You have to
Well, I can't.
Control Shift P.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Man. All right. So you'll notice all I'm doing here is that I'm doing a new chat message, and then I'm giving it a prompt.
So
That's all I'm doing.
What module are you using for that? Or what is new chat message from? Do you?
New chat message is from a module called PSAOI, or PSAI from Doug Fink. Yep.
But you can. There's so many. I mean, you can call all these models with just invoke REST method or things like that. It's all these are just simple API calls.
Yep.
But yeah.
Okay.
Any questions at the moment, or anything we can switch back to slides? Yeah.
So for hallucinations, can you ground the model until it's not to hallucinate?
You can you can try your best.
Yeah.
The problem is if you still ask it for something, it's going to try to answer as best as it can. And so I've done a little testing with that. I can't say it's perfect, but you can say something. If you don't know for sure, you should probably not give me a response. But like, how does it know what's real and what's not? It gets a little finicky that way. So I wouldn't recommend just saying, don't hallucinate to a model. That was the question, by the way, was can I just say to my model, hey, don't hallucinate. Will you not hallucinate for me? And it's a bit of a mess. So yeah, one other question. So that's a great question. The question was, can it validate the commands and code that it was given? An AI agent can absolutely do that. You would just have to build out that validation, build it out like a structured pipeline where it says, hey, I'm going to get back the responses. I'm going to now validate the responses against PowerShell Script Analyzer or my own validation, tool or whatever. And if it passes, great. If not, try again. And so that's when you get into a more complicated agent, but you're not going to get a lot of those just turnkey out of the box solutions for those. But that's when you can get more complicated agents and stuff together. But I'll talk a little bit about more of that later. But yeah, are people starting to understand agents a little bit better? Do they start to make sense a
Are
little
we
bit?
doing a really bad job of explaining it?
Yeah, I'm getting some thumbs up. I'm getting some iffy, and I get it. It's very complicated. I'm gonna share another analogy that really helped click for me. Yeah.
So the way how you use term agent AI agent, you're calling models.
Well, so technically speaking, with AI shell agents, those can also do more advanced things as well. It's to get into the technicalities of it, AI shell agents are C# programs that can call APIs for these models, but it can also do more things and create more advanced pipelines and things. And so that's why we kind of classify them as agents. But again, we also name these before the definition is formed, but I do believe they still comply with it. It may not be like the most perfect, like
You're saying that they're not calling other tools.
they can though. That's the thing.
Now they don't.
The ones that come in box with AI shell do not call other tools besides the
correct.
models. That is correct. But they can call other tools and things like that if you were to build them out.
Sync with the modern meaning of the term agent.
Yeah, the ones that we built in box are very.
In the configuration, it's more like how you define a model that you will interact with.
Yeah, but so that model is in a sense grounded itself, right? We have an Azure agent, that one's grounded to Azure knowledge and things like that. And so that is on the side of more simple just agents themselves, where it gets the task it has is to answer my natural language question with a response, with commands and things like that.
What I want to say is that Microsoft itself is kind of not consistent with the terminology. So
Yeah.
from different teams, like here, models when they actually agents when they actually make models or skills,
Yes.
handlers, and that doesn't help anyone.
Yes. So the I can't summarize all the questions. I'm sorry for the recording, but essentially the summary was it's still confusing as far as some of the things that Microsoft puts out for agents, handlers, skills, models, all those sort of things. And the answer I have to that is I can't control every team, unfortunately. It's tricky. So we're trying to base this just in this is the definition we're using for this talk, right? We're not saying this is the definition, but it is a definition that we'd like to use to help clarify what these agents are and what it is. And I get it's confusing, so I apologize. We're going to try our best here, but this is a movement that the AI world is going towards, and so we wanted to make sure that folks here at this conference are learning and understanding it. But another way you can think about it is this analogy that AI agents are the employees and you are the manager of them. I have an agent to help me with creating outlines for PowerShell Summit that I made previously. I have an employee that helps me with 3D printing things that Mike just created. Like those kind of things is maybe another way that kind of can maybe help click in your brain a little bit better. At least for me, it helped a bit more. But
Right. So, and actually, I'll be showing a demo here coming up where we have multiple agents that are working as a team to complete a project. So,
yeah, I'm just doing a check on time.
we're good.
So yeah, let's talk about AI shell a little bit and the agents themselves. So if you weren't in the session prior to this one, AI shell is a command line tool to give you a sidecar assistance and a inline assistance AI experience with your PowerShell session. You can access two different agents that come out of the box. One for any OpenAI compatible model. You just put in your Azure OpenAI key or your endpoint and your key, and you're on your merry way. Or the Azure one, which connects you to the Copilot in Azure, which itself can be thought of as an agent that can help you with generating Azure CLI and Azure PowerShell commands. They're the Azure expert in your team of employees, so to speak. So, and like I said, AI Shell is a client for these AI agents. It is not an agent itself. Like I said, with two agents, AI compatible agent, and then the Copilot and Azure agent, these are the ones that are provided. I'm going to be talking a little bit about Azure OpenAI because I think that's a really powerful one and one that's very, very easy to set up. Creating your own agent can take a lot of forms, as we've kind of talked about. This is another way to do it where you can deploy your own version of OpenAI or ChatGPT, like in your Azure subscription. So you know that the data that's getting sent to it is staying within my tenant. It is something I have control over. I can throttle it. I can restrict access. I can manage it for my employees or my team and stuff like that. And so that's one that we like to do because it feels like a general, something that, folks at this kind of conference would be familiar with and want to control. So I'll talk a little bit about like what we will walk through, what Azure OpenAI service is, how to simply deploy it via Bicep, and then we'll talk about some of the features of it where you can kind of make it your own and make it your own kind of employee with this. And then we'll connect it to AI Shell itself. I'm going to keep how good, I think I'm okay on time.
You're fine. You're fine.
So, so let's jump into it. So I have an empty resource group here called Summit 2025 RG. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to jump to my VS Code. I was on light mode beforehand, so just small dig at my.
I'm going to hear about
co-presenter.
this for a long time.
No. But essentially, what I have here is a Bicep module to deploy an Azure OpenAI instance to my service. I'll walk through this pretty briefly, but if you were in any of the other Bicep sessions, there's this awesome thing called Azure Verified Modules. These are modules that the team at Microsoft has built out to make it very easy to deploy resources, just like that. And so this is going to create two things: a AI account, and then within that AI account is going to create a deployment. And so that's kind of the structuring of it here. So I'm going to be calling this PS Summit 2025, and then I'm going to call it PS Summit 2025-Steven, because this one has to be a unique name. Within that, I'm going to create a deployment called GPT-4, and it's going to use the same GPT-4 model from OpenAI this version here. And it's going to be all based in East US here. So all I got to do is take this file, and I'm going to be utilizing this splatting. Did I do the right resource group? No, I didn't. So, what I'm going to be doing is deploying this Bicep file to Azure using the new-AZ resource group deployment. So I will just, I'll just copy and paste this here because I think that will be easier.
This Bicep file is available online.
Yes. So all the resources are available online. If you just search Azure OpenAI Bicep file, you'll find it straight away. I'm going to run this, and it's actually now going to Azure and deploying this AI account and the Azure OpenAI instance. And so I'll jump back to the portal so you can see that it was created. Template deployment, tracking ID errors. The quota limit is 20.
You hit your quota limit.
I hit my quota limit.
So let's talk about quota limits.
You want to talk about quota? Yeah.
Yeah, when you're actually and
0.
you would think somebody from Microsoft would have like an unlimited account of the quota limit.
Quota limit. Let's try 0 capacity. I'm not sure that's going to really help us today, but I swear this was work. It has to be at least 1. Okay. Let's try whatever. Okay. Well, let's try one more time. I swear this was working this morning. I must have deployed too much. They must have caught on to me. It's 20.
It's because your quota is like per subscription, right?
Yes. Yes, I do have another one deployed. You are right. So you know what? Why don't we just jump over to that? You're going to have to trust me on this. I definitely, yeah, okay, let's do this one. Within this one, here we go. So this is a AI account. Let's say I created this with my Bicep file there. Let's say I wasn't flagged for spinning up too many of these. Oops. But inside this, it will take me to the Azure AI Foundry page. And so this is really your playground to create your own Azure OpenAI deployment and instance. This is where you can do things like filtering responses so that you can say, hey, AI model, do not give me anything that has the word bash in it, or do not say anything about Linux, or whatever. I don't know, just things like that. in deployments here, I can go here and say, hey, create a deployment. This would have been created already if my bicep file had worked, but I can create a base model here and look through all the different models that are available to me. I'm just going to say, I'm not going to create it yet because I'm probably at the limit here, but I can create an O3 mini one, for example.
Right. So I just have a question for Steven. Is what does it mean when it says that a model is for chat response or for this or that? What does that mean?
Yeah, so you can kind of see, it's a little hard to see. Under each model, you'll see chat completions. Those are the same kind of chat completions that you see with any, ChatGPT, OpenAI. You also see ones for audio generation. You also see ones for embeddings, which is kind of a more advanced text-based one, text to speech, text to image, completions, chat completions. So there's a lot of different ones. We like to go with kind of the more brand familiar ones like ChatGPT 4.0, ChatGPT 4. Let's say this one. I'm not going to deploy it. I already have one deployed here. And here you'll get my endpoint and my key and things like that. And so you can get all this information. You can get some metrics on how it was used, risks and safety, kind of, any filters that I want to add to this. I can create like a lot more like filters to say custom filter here. Hey, don't, be very
language.
High threshold for violence kind of thing, hate and all this stuff. I can also do a block list. So I can say, profanity ones, don't include any profanity.
Oh, come on.
I'm sorry. And so, you can you can use it you can create your own custom list as well. So whatever you want to do, you can have that kind of control to it. I'm not going to go through it here, but here's a block list. So you can say, custom block list here and where you can create your terms. So I can do, we don't want to see any bash terms, for example. In exact mash, it's just going to, whenever a response includes the word bash, it's just going to not give it to me. So if you really want to avoid folks using something that has, something associated with, I don't know, some kind of competitor or something like that you don't want it to do, you can create these filters.
You just seem really biased against bash for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm at a PowerShell conference or something. I'm not sure. But what you can also do is fine tune and train your model on your own data. This is where it gets a lot more advanced. And I don't have enough time to really dive too deeply into it, but it's actually good. I can show this off. I created a deployment that is great for Docker commands and stuff. I mentioned this in my previous session, but essentially what I did was I found thousands and thousands of examples of Docker commands, Docker space ls, Docker space whatever. And I wanted to train a model that would be much more grounded and much more specific to Docker commands. So I took those examples online, I formatted it in the special way that it needs into simple JSON-L stuff, files, and I trained deployed a model based off of that data. And so now if I call this model and stuff, I'll open it in the playground. How do I find what images or what Docker containers are running with port 80 open? It should just give me a very simple command that says, yeah, here you go, Docker ps grep 80 or something like that. And so it knows a lot more of these commands. So talking about the scope, it can hallucinate less with this kind of fine-tuning data itself. So that's an example of how you can fine-tune things. Like I said, I have more control over this, so I can put up quotas, I can put up filtering, I can train this stuff, I can delete it, I can destroy it, I can do whatever I want to it and stuff. Anything I'm missing with Azure OpenAI deployments and stuff like that?
No, not really.
Okay.
We covered it. You can't go too deep into it because literally there's 1,000 different things you can do inside of there. Yes.
So the question was, how do I deploy it out to various places? And so what this does is it actually creates a very simple endpoint and key that I can just make a simple REST call to, and then I get the data I need. And so you're a perfect segue to what I was kind of showing off is they give you a lot of code examples to be like, hey, you can even use Entra ID for this, where it gives a Python example that you can say, hey, here's the endpoint URL, here's the deployment name, go through this, files, here's the examples and stuff, and run that. You can also do, of course, key-based authentication. You just gotta replace it with your own key and stuff like that. So it's just a simple API call and stuff. And so I'll show off here what I will be doing for AI shell. So I'm going to take this 4.0 mini one, and I might commit the cardinal sin of showing my key.
Oh,
But
geez.
I will. The good news is I'm going to delete this as soon as I'm done with this, because otherwise I'm going to be in trouble. But essentially, it's very, very simple here. So you can see, getting it shows language, Python REST. I'm going to do a REST call here. It shows all this stuff. PowerShell is coming. I knew I was going to get called out on that. I swear to God. We personally, our team has manually been updating a lot of the documentation for examples. If you go online, you'll find PowerShell examples for Azure OpenAI online. They just don't have them here yet. So, yes. However, you can kind of get the idea from C# or a REST call example here. Okay, let's do this. I'm going to switch over. You still see my stuff here. So this is my AI shell window. Oh, no, wrong one.
You don't.
Zoom in a bit here. So currently this is not going to work, I'm pretty sure.
No.
Yes, because the file is broken. I'm going to go run agent config here, and I'm going to, this is my configuration file for my AI shell agent. And so you'll see here, this is just the description. I'm going to create a private OpenAI GPT-4 instance. All I need is the endpoint, the deployment, and the model name, and the key. And I've made a system prompt that says, hey, you are a friendly and helpful PowerShell assistant. Assume the user is using Windows unless specified, use the code block. Like I created in advance. This is where prompt engineering, I took that course and I figured that out, but it's, so let's go back here. I'm going to take my URL here. Actually, I'm going to take the Python example because it's a little bit more clear because it's got the syntax highlighting. I'm going to copy this endpoint, throw it here, and then I got to make sure that I'm using a different model this time. Deployment is this, and I use the same model name, so I'm just changing it up. I'll just clarify here, mini. And then, all right, now I'm creating the cardinal sin.
Everybody
copy.
close their eyes.
Yeah, everyone close their eyes.
Oh, look.
Don't peek. I'm going to paste my key here. And then I'm going to go back to AI shell, run /refresh. And, because I misspelled it.
Oh, now you gave him a second look at it.
Yeah. You memorized it the first time? Oh, no.
It'll be on the recording. So
There we go. So now it's working, and so now it is calling the specific one. Write me a bunch of PowerShell jokes. Should I do? I heard some groans. Joke.
do it.
Oh, and you know what?
What'd you do?
What did I do? I have hit my limit still. I guess I should not have been testing my demo beforehand because that is the problem. Yes. Yeah. I would get the responses as simple as that. I just hit my quota. I am limited in my deployment as well, but that's as easy as it is That's how easy it can be to just set it up with AI shell, for example. But with other clients and other apps, you can just follow the examples that they have with Python, C#, Java, PowerShell coming soon, and then the other examples they have there. So that's a little bit about the Azure OpenAI, kind of a more advanced version of kind of the model deployments and stuff.
Isn't that quota thing something that your boss could fix for you?
I don't think my boss is in the room, so I guess we'll
Okay.
So the quota is you're limited per token. You can set it. So tokens are essentially the way models measure cost and stuff. So you're charged per token, and a token, it's not per character. A token is a more of a chunk of characters. The rule of thumb is like, I think it's about like 7 characters is about a token.
Actually, it's 8.
8, 7 or 8 characters is considered one token. And so that includes how many characters you type in the response and how many characters you get back. And so my organization has put a strict rule on the amount of tokens you can ask it and tokens that you get back. And so I have to request more quota to get more, but that's a policy that my organization has set up. And so you can control that within your own organization to say, I don't want more than 10,000 tokens a day per user or something like that.
If you pay, and as an example, if you pay ChatGPT, OpenAI, if you pay them $20 a month or whatever, you can get up to 2.4 million tokens per month. So that's what you're working with. So.
Is the value of tokens for the prompt and the completion, is it different?
No, they use the same. They use the same type. As far as I know, do you know differently?
They use the same type, but I think Azure OpenAI may. I got to check the pricing here.
Again, every provider is going to be different.
Yeah. So pricing per million tokens for this particular model is $15 per million token input, and then $60 per million token output. So they are different, at least
Different
in the Azure
prices,
OpenAI
but they're the
sense.
same tokens.
But they're the same tokens. Yeah.
So grounding your model, you're more concise, to kind of save those tokens.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, go ahead.
You can give an example of PDF file. You know how they count tokens of PDF input?
It's a good question. The question was, how do they count tokens for other files like PDFs? I'm not entirely sure. Or images.
Anything that is not just pure text.
That's a good question. I don't know off the top of my head, but I can definitely follow up, and I'm sure that's documented somewhere online. I don't know off the top of my head, though.
I even asked him the question the other day. I said, "Is there if he knew of any way that you can actually run an app or something, or something that would actually tell you how many tokens you're actually using, and give you a counter or something?" But there really isn't anything there.
It really isn't. It's a bit bothersome. There's tools online where you can see how many tokens in your text are. So you put your paragraph of text in and say how many tokens are here, and it will tell you that. But it's tricky as far as you don't know until you get basically to the limit. And I think, yeah, it's a bit bothersome. So I think I saw a question over here, and
You were saying, so like whatever you ask, if that's counted for the token count as well.
yes.
You have documents in like a storage account that you're using as context to like ground it or add more.
Those are counted in the tokens as well. I just don't know how much, if it's more per like a document. But as far as text, if it's a raw text document, those are definitely the same kind of token format. As far as like images and stuff, I don't know how that's chunked out.
And then is it easy to request for a higher token or quota limits on the stuff?
It depends on the
Yeah,
provider.
it depends. So there's a couple. It depends on location as well. Certain regions are limited. You can only fine tune models in specific regions currently. There are current capacity constraints. But oh my god, I brain farted. What was the question?
How easy is it to request for more quota?
Oh, it's fairly easy. You can request it directly in the portal here. In the here, I'm not going to do it, but you can
Support
request
ticket,
additional
isn't it?
quota.
Yeah.
And go through it.
It's like a support ticket. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, if you could hold off any other questions, we got to get through a couple more demos before time runs out, and I've got one that
Yeah,
goes
do you
for a
wanna-
little while. No, you got a.
Oh.
Is there?
Yeah, you're right. No. I might just. Okay. Should I show this off? Sure.
You can if you want.
Okay. I'm going to. So, well, actually, I'm not going to go because I'm going to be soon out of the slides here. We've created a number of other advanced AI agents for AI Shell. We just don't ship with them. You can still build them if you build from our repository. So if I go to, I'm going to go to the AI Shell repo. It's previously called Project Mercury, in case you see that around. We have a variety of different agents. Where is it? That are available if you build directly from this tool. Like you can see here, the OpenAI one is shipped with it, as well as the Azure one. But we have two other ones. The Ollama one is one I showed off for talking to a local SLM where I turned off Wi-Fi and was able to still kind of get the responses. That one is really good for documentation on how to create your own one. The other one we have is this thing called the interpreter agent. And the interpreter agent is actually able to interpret and execute and self-remediate code. And so let's just, I'll jump into it a little bit. It's a little harder to show, get a good demo here, but this is the interpreter agent. And this is actually an agent where it makes sense to have it as a full screen standalone experience because it's actually going to be executing code for me. I'm going to say something like, create me a PowerShell project for converting different currencies. Let's see what it can do. And this actually might be a good example. So it's going to create a plan and then create that file and actually try to run. So first, step one, create the PowerShell file. It's going to create a new file called currencyconverter.ps1. It says, oh, would you like to run this code? I'm going to say, not T, Y. I'm going to say yes.
So this is a good example of proactive, be an agent, and autonomous. Because if he were to automatically respond to these prompts, it would just do it for him. It would do all this without even asking him. And
so now it creates a function. It's like, now they'll add this code to this currency file. So I can say, hey, get exchange rate. Here's the API. Here's the stuff. It will try it out. And so it set the content there, which is great. And so now it's going to implement the conversion logic for it. So it's building upon itself. It's going through each step and executing and building out these things. This is obviously a pretty complicated one, but
it's learning.
It's learning based on its previous output. So now it's going to, you can see it says done, done, done. And now it's going to get the user input. So the user can put in the input for what currency it wants to
and this is a communication.
Switch out.
This is a communication part.
Yeah. You can see now it's added things like read host to it as well. I'm going to run it, say yes again. It says no output, but it looks like previous step. Plan, recap again. The task is done. Okay, so it actually did this. So maybe if let's try it.
You sound surprised. It actually did this.
It actually did this. Well, I don't know. It's always worrisome. Enter amount to convert $100 USD. And it fails. But it is because, cannot convert the value USD to system hash table. So the problem, let's try this again. Run the convert currency.ps1 file and help me with the. I think it will. Hopefully, it will find it.
It should find it anyways.
It did find it. Okay.
Yeah, it should be. It's self-learning, so it should be like, oh yeah, he meant to do this.
Oh, maybe it didn't convert currency. No.
Oh, it's not that smart. Oh yeah, I found it. Yep. It says, hey dummy.
Well, so now it's actually running get child. Thank you. Well, good thing if well, so this is actually another great example where it couldn't find it. It ran get child item to actually find what files were there and said, hey, this is close enough. Here's currency converter.ps1. And I didn't have to touch anything or correct it. So it is about self-remediating and self-resolving. And when it actually, so if it ever runs and has an execution error with the PowerShell that it's running, it will fix itself and then rerun until it does not get an error. Having a reproducible error like that is pretty tricky to do. So I've been trying to actually get it to fail. But yeah, that's a bit more of, this is a way more advanced AI shell agent that you can use to run PowerShell, execute commands, and have it self-remediate. And so it's trying to do this. It's going to fail because it's actually waiting for read host. And so it's not going to work at all. But yeah, I'm trying to think of some other examples here. But yeah, that's a bit of it. I want to leave enough time for one of the last demos here, but that's another example of a very, very complicated agent that can actually, we talked about validating the code beforehand. This is actually similar step where it uses the LLM to generate the code. It runs the code. It actually will know if it errors or not, and then it will fix itself until it no longer errors. It may not be the expected output, but it knows it's going to work until it doesn't error anymore. So that's an example of a more advanced one that we've built out here that, you can build out, that other folks can build out, or utilize as well. So,
How did you get to that? Brought it up.
yeah, so the interpreter agent is, what I did was I went to the AI shell repo here and I cloned it and I built it locally from this source here. We have instructions in this repo on how to do so. Once you have that, all you have to do is run the AI shell executable. I have a lot of debugs and stuff on my machines. That's why I'm using the fully qualified path here. But once you do that, I just run the executable and it will give it to you as a dropdown. So you can see these are a bunch of other agents that I built out that to test, but you can just ignore those for now. But when you build it from the repo itself, you can test it out and play around. You will have to give it an Azure OpenAI or an OpenAI key, but there's instructions on that as well. So yeah, that's a little bit about that. Cool. So
Got one more.
got one more?
Yep.
All right.
All right, so I'm going to show a demo, and what this demo is, go back to...
We're in the right spot, right? Is this where we got to be?
Yeah, this is where we got to be. Go ahead and
Just do it all?
Build it out, yeah. Right. So this script will actually simulate a team of AI agents, and this team is working together on a project. Now, think about what this means. Is you actually have a situation where you work in an environment and you're given a project and you have to do 6 different jobs in order to get this project completed. All right. Maybe you just are proficient in one area of that. Okay. You could have an AI agents be deployed as a team for a common goal and have them actually do the other 5 roles that you need. All right. Or you could have them do all of the roles. All right. So Steven had a good example of this is that you're given a project, but you don't have a project manager, and you've never done a project
Or a
manager.
marketing person,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
An engineer who's great at PowerShell, or an engineer that's great at Python, whatever you need, right?
Right.
You have a gap in kind of the project that you're trying to fulfill.
Right. So let me switch over here. So this particular script actually has a bunch of capabilities to it. I can't show it all because we don't have the time. But this is actually a script called AIPS Team. All right. It is built all on PowerShell. And what it does is it actually goes out and creates all of these agents based off of what you ask it to do. So here I'm looking at the code for this AIPS team.ps1. You can see this is where it's actually creating the project team expert objects. These are the roles as they were. So you're talking about everything from someone who is involved with security and compliance, everybody who is involved when you get down to the project overview, the project manager, the domain expert, and you get down to another one, which is a system architect. It's going to start out as a simple project definition, and it's going to be passed to the project manager, and then the project manager is going to spend it and give the information out to these agents. All right, but some of these agents are relying on the output of other agents. So they act in serial. They don't act necessarily in parallel. All right, so one agent gets done, takes that information, gives it to another agent. That agent is learning because that's the data source that it's been given for that project. It evaluates what it needs to evaluate, what it's told to do, and then it passes it to another agent. And that agent does what it's supposed to do until finally you get an outcome. All right?
This is a very, very complicated example of agents.
Very complex, very complicated and very complex. All right. So in this particular instance, one of the things I have to do is I have to specify no RAG. And the reason for that is because it uses something called Bing search. Yeah, believe it or not. But Bing search doesn't exist anymore because the APIs for it don't exist. It's called grounding Bing search or something now. And it's only available for people who are pay-as-you-go or prepaid plans, which really sucks, Microsoft. But, you know, it's what it is.
It's not my team.
But so what we do is we just say, okay, don't go to the outside world. Don't go to Bing search and bring in outside information. Just focus on the information that you know, the models that you're looking at, and you're more self-contained that way. Okay? So here I have to specify no RAG as an option.
And RAG is often used as an acronym for Retrieval Augmented Generation,
Sorry, yeah.
which is another fancy way to say, you know, when we said upload files or train your model on specific data, it's another fancy way of saying that.
Right. So I'm just giving it a basic project, monitor RAM usage and show a single color block based on the load. Now, this could be a project about anything. You're actually telling it what you want it to do. All right. So I'm giving it the first basic prompt, if you will, the information. And when I do it, I hit enter here. Hopefully this works. It's actually going to go out and it's going to ask me for more information. Yes, keep going, keep going. All right, so it's actually saying, okay, give me more information. Do you have more context? Do you have more, what's the project objective? What are the key features? What are the user requirements? What is this? What are the constraints? What is the success criteria for this? And you can add all this information, all right? And the AI agents are going to take this and consume it and make it part of the overall output. So I'm not going to give it anything else. I'm just going to give it this. That's it.
That super readable blue says,
Yeah.
would you provide more detail?
I'm sorry.
It's very hard to read even on this screen here, but essentially just says, hey, I need more details based on the above, right?
Right. So here we go. Feedback from project manager. This is where the project manager is already building the project, deliverables, considerations, success criteria, and then he's passing it off, okay? And they're passing it off to another person who's actually writing code, okay, and producing code.
I saw PowerShell blow by the screen really quick there.
Yep. This is generating a complete output of that single line of text that I told what it wanted to do from a project standpoint, and it's going out to all these agents and asking them for input. So this goes through and actually tells you, you know, everything it's writing. Look at that, it's validating the code. It's going through and running and telling you everything that's involved in the code. It tells you the usage examples of how to use it. Now it's going to the architect, the OpenAI architect, and asking it for information. All right. Do you see the point of this is that it's not just one particular task that you give an agent. It doesn't have to be. All right. You can expand this to multiple agents and you can tell it to give you an overall big picture. Hey, you work for me or you are working on this project. Give me the final output.
Or help me get there, right?
Right.
You may not need to just jump to the final output, but you want to learn and develop. That's why you kind of need to, you know, talk to a project manager agent or a marketing agent or someone who's great at writing tests for your code. Say you want to learn that. That's a big example that GitHub Copilot is actually really great at as well.
Right. So this is still generating. To be honest with you, I'm not sure how long it's going to generate, but at the end, you're going to get a whole bunch of other options that you can do. One of them is to actually save the project. It's going to ask you can give it more clarification if you want things changed, if you want another agent to evaluate other information or reevaluate information after the entire thing has run. So there's a lot of options you can do here. Hopefully this gets done Now we're in the developer, the PowerShell developer. This is where the developer is going through and saying, hey, you know what? We got to create these scripts in order to give the outcome that we need.
Yeah, you have a question?
Do you have to daisy chain the agents, or they could communicate with each other as they see the need?
Currently, they run in serial. So they're actually running in serial, but when they get done with their serial, what they're doing, they make that available to all the other agents. So the other agents will read that information in order to accomplish their task.
This is how just this one was particularly set up, where it is somewhat daisy chained as far as like, okay, pass it through each of these project team members and stuff. You can set it up in different ways. It is very extensible as far as, I mean, building your own agent, you can kind of do it however you want, but serializing is probably the easiest as the first step.
You see, it's actually creating documentation. It documents the entire project, the entire process. It gives you a FAQ. It gives you installation instructions for all the scripts. It's just an incredible piece of work. Again, the main reason we're showing this is because this is so complex, all right? But it solves a real world problem. It solves something that you may be facing today in terms of, I can't get this done because I don't have the resources, I don't have the knowledge, or we have the technical debt of X or Y or Z.
Yeah, this is really to peak interest. We're not saying there's one thing that you need to use. There's not one perfect thing, but there is a way that AI agents can help accelerate your life. You need to just find the right agents, find the right assistants, and help you alleviate stress, pain, debt in your work.
Right. So you see the final, it's done. Okay? But you see all the other options that are available now. You can suggest new features, enhancements, explain the code, show the code with research, save the project, even do code refactoring. All right, so the developer would go out and try and refactor the code. I'm just going to open up the project folder. And what you'll notice here is each role has its own log. So if I look at the actual analyst log, this is telling me everything that the analyst came out as an output of what it needs to do for this project. All right, each one of these log files. All right, and how they all interacted with each other, all the code that's involved, how it processed the input, any scripts it had to run to try and understand better, or scripts that it thinks it should be part of the project.
Yeah. Why don't we take a look at the code, and then we'll probably have to wrap up because I think we're close on time.
All right. Which code?
Oh, just of the that it generated. But just to take a look, just to show.
Well, that's going to take a while.
Okay.
Because it goes through,
a lot of different
it runs through the
things,
whole
but,
thing. Yeah, it's going to take a while. One last thing I do want to show. We don't have any time, do we? Well, I'm going to do it anyways, in case anybody wants to see it. Is I wanted to make this beyond just work. You can use all these agents, okay, within your own life, within your own personal life, within your own home life. All right. This is a perfect example. This is Home Assistant. It's an automation platform for your home, but it uses AI, and you can use all kinds of AI with it. You can use the extended OpenAI conversation. You can use Gemini. You can use Ollama. You can use all of these different things. One of them is called LLM Vision. That's where you can define multiple agents to be able to talk to devices and talk to what they call entities, where an entity could be a person, an entity could be a device, an entity could be a picture, and it can actually tell the agents to talk about those, describe them, do things with them, so on and so forth. So this goes beyond just hey, I got to do this thing for work. All right, you need to think a little bit broader than that. Okay. And agents are everywhere.
Yes.
Okay, final. Wait. This is a good part.
We'll just wrap it up here. But
Come on.
can you see the screen?
Not yet.
Oh, now it's failing? Come on.
Okay.
There we go.
All right.
So agents are everywhere. That's kind of another takeaway. You may not realize it, but they're everywhere. From Home Assistants to GitHub Copilots, you're like, what else?
Oh yeah, you can roll your own, baby. If you want to roll your own, yeah, you're right there. And for those that are politically correct, maybe you want to call it a burrito. Roll your
you
own.
can roll it.
Okay. All right. So agents benefit you in your work. You get more specific expertise, detailed different kinds of thinking.
Yeah, they can help you, fill different gaps in your area. Could be, you can have agents that are more secure, SLMs, LLMs that meet your particular needs. Add reliable data sources. One agent could talk to multiple models, so agents could talk to each other. It's a very, very broad and very confusing thing. And we hope we've at least piqued your interest to explore agents more and how they can help your life. Or we've just confused the hell out of you, which
That's
is a
right.
total possibility as well. So a little bit of both maybe. But yeah, so that kind of wraps things up. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
And yeah. Oh, and the feedback slides.
Oh
so.
yeah, give feedback, please.